Greetings in the Lord Jesus. He is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. And a few weeks ago, he had me talk about him leaving the flock to get the one. He left the 99 safely with all they needed, but he went after the one. And he had me do that because he was talking to you. There are many that sometimes, just things of this world get you overwhelmed and things didn't go right. And it's easy to just get angry and mad. And people think, oh, that's terrible. What would God think? God, the Lord knows everything. He's your father, a loving father. There's fathers out there that are not loving. There's mothers out there that are not loving, but he loves us. And so I missed you. I I just pray that you had a great Thanksgiving time, uh, maybe with family and others you haven't seen for a long time. Um, with this season, I've been praying. I am relieved from bed rest for the amount of time I can do this today. And my apologies for not being able to do the broadcast on our normal Thursday time, but I look forward to our family time, getting together with you. Certainly couldn't come in person. So this is a great way. And I wanted to thank my nurses, Kimberly. She reminds me of my mother, except she doesn't have all those old remedies and things that my mother used to. You couldn't do it today. Hot toddies, and I think her favorite was salt baths, Epsom salt baths, and Vicks vapor rub, heating pads. So she, but she's pretty tough. Over these last few weeks, just it's been, the Lord is sometimes He can use those times when you're down just to talk to you. And I want to share something today that is not in my normal teaching. I thought of what titles and those things. Most of the titles you see that are out there on the different platforms, that's Luke's come up with some of those titles, so that's okay. But that, by the way, is Saint Michael up in Italy, up in the mountains. Saint Michael's Abbey. I thought that was beautiful as I've been studying and thinking about angels. But these last 2 weeks, he's brought back a lot of things that he had shown me in 2018, late 2017, 2018. But I'll share a couple. People say, I like to hear those stories. I never talk about them because I try to focus everything on Jesus, but at the same time, I've always been candid, transparent, and I do that in the love of Jesus Christ for each one of you. I do consider you my family, and you've been on our hearts, and you've been in my prayers as I bed rest, a lot of liquids, those types of things. Let's see how far we can go today. National War Council. So help me out by praying and looking over some things I may not get right today. National War Council, for those, I have tried to explain what it is. It's a provocative name, but it's really in alignment with the scriptures, is what the Lord instructed me to do, is that we're warriors. We are ambassadors for our king, and in that capacity, there's another kingdom that has warriors that oppose us. And those warriors are principalities, powers, and spiritual wickedness. But I had thought about, and it says that prayer is God's way of enlisting each of you, the Ekklesia, each of us, into what He is doing. And that's the truth. And that's why this group, this family group that loves, is like the Bereans, wisdom warriors, sage warriors, intercessors, and of course my Bereans welcome you. And I love you so much in the Lord. it's his way of enlisting us in what he's doing today. And the Lord willing, the next broadcast, I will get into a little bit more on what's happening in the Middle East and try to show that to you as we go into Revelation chapter 6 and the four horsemen. So I'll go back for a period of time to tell you a story. I have two today. I have always been fascinated with nature and with animals. I've loved them all my life. My mother raised hamsters when we were young, so I always had a hamster in a pocket or in my bed and torment them with tracks they had to go through and toilet paper rolls and those things. She also raised rabbits, and there was one section for the rabbits I could take in the house, and there was another section for the rabbits you couldn't. And I used to get them and be able to put them to sleep when I put them on their back. There's been I love nature, and there's a beetle in Louisiana. It's a big beetle, it has like a horn thing on it. When we were little, they were everywhere. And my mother was just as bad as I was about some of the stuff. She showed me how to get some thread and tie it to a matchbox and then tie it around this little beetle's body and watch it fly around the room. So why would you mention that? You'll see today. We just, walking sticks, all those things, it didn't stop. When I got into college, I don't know how well you can see him. I lived on some acreage with a brother that there was two mobile homes. The one I had was actually a professor that I had, and he was a Christian. And when he moved on to get his PhD, he said, would you like to take over my notes? And that was about all I could do. But behind me were cattle, and it was all around me was farms. Behind me was cattle, and eventually put a chicken pen on the left. But to the right was a large farm where he had pigs in this one area. And the fence I had to drive down to get over to the mobile home, right there was always pigs just running around. And tell you how scriptural this is. 2 Peter 2:22. A dog returns to his vomit, and a washed sow to her wallowing in the mud. What does this have to do with anything? I was going to get one of those little bitty piglets. She had new ones, or one of them did. And my neighbor had this like fish net with a handle. So I was going to go to the fence and put some bacon drippings and some old cornbread or something on the ground and try and draw one of them little piglets to me. And when I get it, I was going to put that net over it, flip it over, and take it and give it a bath and just, I guess, play with it or something. It was so cute with little hooves and little bitty snout. I said, man, that is something. Well, the problem is it all worked out well, and it was a little black and white piglet. When I put the net over it, went to turn it over, first of all, about broke the net. I had no idea the thing weighed that much. And it started squealing. It's like, I think you could hear that squeal for miles. Yeah, it wasn't long for Mama come running. And she was, if she was 300, she was 1,000 pounds. Looked like a rhino without the horn coming at me. And so I escaped to the house. But there's a lot of different stories like that, and I'll tell you why I mentioned that. So my little piglet experience, and I was going to do, according to Peter, I was going to wash it. So I was going to give it back. I just wanted to play with it. I didn't have a dog or a cat. So I'm going to get started on bragging on our Father. He is amazing. He's wonderful, and we'll cover those scriptures. So again, today is a little bit different, but just to talk about our Father, your Father, my Father in the Lord Jesus Christ, and by the power of the Holy Spirit. Darwinism, the theory of the origin and perpetuation of new species of animals and plants, that offspring of a given organism vary, that natural selection favors the survival of these over others, survival of the fittest, that new species have arisen and may continue to arise by the process, and that widely divergent groups of plants and animals have arisen from the same ancestors. That's the Merriam-Webster's dictionary. And you can see at times Darwinism claims that all life, including human beings, developed through a blend and undirected process of natural selection acting on random variations. Well, I'd get into that with random variations. There is none. In the words of the late Harvard paleontologist George Gaylord Simpson, man is the result of a purposeless and natural process that did not have him in mind. There's many that are gray hairs and a little bit older that we look and say, we know that. Well, the sad part is that's what they're teaching in school. If you have young children, if you have all the way through college, that's academia. And I'll give you an idea. I quoted this one lady. Because there's a huge amount of extremely solid evidence for evolution. That's not true, by the way. They have poked so many holes in that. This is what the whole teaching they had given to me on. Solid evidence for evolution, and none whatsoever for literal creatism, the kind that rejects evolution other than, this is what I believe, or this is what I want to believe. This is her basically mocking, but she's well known. That would automatically mean that you were intellectually dishonest and couldn't be trusted not to slant your research in order to get the results you wanted rather than the truth. That's what they do. Astronomers or Asmodeus, whatever the prophet is, he had some things right, Amadeus, but they take so many other things and try to shoehorn it in there to make it happen. Well, this is the same thing with evolution. It has been discredited. Any genuine scientist, mathematician, and others would. I'll show you a statistic on that. Plus, very little in biology can be fully understood without knowledge of evolution. So the areas in which you could work and hope to produce any positive results would be very limited. The best you could hope for would be some kind of bean counter working on things like, how do I tell the sex of a baby chicken? Or how many hairs does X species of an ant have on its head? And then you would be seen as more of a technician than a scientist. She's expressing opinion that many of them have of Christians. You can just about get away with being a respected science in another field, such as fluid dynamics, and not believe in evolution, though to still cast your intellectual objectivity into doubt. I'm going to rely a lot on my slides today, especially as we get to the end. Biologist, I cover this for a particular reason. According to a 1998 survey, members of the National Academy of Science, 95% of biologists identify themselves as either atheist or agnostic. A percentage of unbelief are higher than any other science discipline. In other words, 95% of them don't believe it. Biologists, you can see the chart on the left, it's 94% with atheists and agnostics. Similarly, according to a 2003 Cornell survey, leading scientists in the field of evolution, 87% deny the existence of God, 88% disbelieve in a life after death. They'll be surprised. And 90% reject the idea that evolution directed towards an ultimate purpose. The rates of atheism and agnosticism are not quite as high among scientists outside the field of biology. According to a survey published in 2007 of college professors at the nation's major research universities, nearly 64% of scientists at these institutions classify themselves as atheists or agnostics. I don't know who still holds to that. The difficulty for me in that is not you and I at our age and our experience and believing the word, but it's the influence that children and all the way through the different curriculums of junior high and high school, and then even in the college, that's what's predominant, is this teaching. And as this person quoting her said, you won't have a career, if you believe in God. And so 95% within that career are atheist or agnostic. However, I want to thank a friend, a sister in the Lord. There's so many different ones that watch doctors and teachers and the intelligence community. Um, there's just a lot of people that watch. And when I taught on the bones and the marrow, those are the things that the Lord has shown to me. And I'm not in any of those fields. I just listen to what the Holy Spirit tells me, what He teaches me, and then I put together a teaching. It used to be just for my own use and for Luke and Kimberly in the cave, and now it's you're the one that I'm doing what I can to help all of us mature and grow. But I wanted to thank her. She added a few things to it, and it's really a well-written document on the blood and the marrow. The good thing is I had it right. So, or Jesus had it right. Why should he? He knows everything. He created all things. So the alternative, it's up to you. Homeschool. When Kimberly and I were thinking about having Luke, she had a very good career in fashion design. That's what her degree is in. And we just prayed and prayed, and she had never counted on being a school teacher. She would always, in that fashion world, and she was a light in that world, a Christian, and what we need. But it came to the point where we said, we don't want the public school to raise our children. And there were several Christian academies in the area that if you checked them out, there was really no standard for teachers. They had a name as a Christian group, but that's about as far as they went. And I've shared the story about the lady who was a principal over one of those, that she was in our prayer group and always had asked for prayer because so many witches in the school were after her. So just quickly to go through. So if you have that option, think about it. There are, in biology, there's homeschooling that you can get. Believe me, in order to avoid what they teach in public schools, just think about it. I mean, we valued it as, for Kimberly, she all the way through, just a toddler all the way through high school with the Abeka program. This is what they believe and scale of the nature model, and it shows Gibeon, gargantuan, chimpanzee, gorilla, and humana, right, as we evolved in their thinking. But the one on the right is new. It says Gibeon, orangutan, chimpanzee, gorilla, human, but down at the bottom has gorilla, chimp, human, the current view. So they hold the fact that some big bang thing happened and we somehow slowly evolved. I thought this was appropriate, though. It's from 2021 to the New York Times. One step forward and one step backwards, and you can see us going from monkey and processes to going back down to monkey. It wasn't a complimentary thing. He basically was talking about and making fun of progressive views. How we learn so little in so much time. So there's one other I wanted to let you be sure that you're aware of. An excerpt from an article by George Ebert, Eberhart, currently the editor of the College and Research Librarian News, the American Association headquarters in Chicago, quoting, "Not long ago, I was urging the serials department of a large university to subscribe to one of two UFO journals. After initial astonishment that such things beyond lurid newsstand publications even existed, the librarian told me they didn't collect science fiction, and perhaps the special collections department would be interested. Equating the study of UFOs or ufology, UFOLOGY, with science fiction is surprising given the amount of serious media exposure it has had over the past 10 years. They even have congressional hearings on it now. So in 1976, a survey was conducted among donors to the Center for UFO Studies. These are the type people that support it. These are not fringe group people. Center for UFO Studies. 1/5 of the 161 donors had PhDs, degrees. A total of 75% had earned at least a bachelor's degree. Most common degrees were in physics and engineering. So these are the type of people that are studying that. So it's not, what they call it, tinfoil hats, whatever they refer that to. And I've talked about this, and it's important to keep an open mind to it. Stick to scripture. And when you see these things, I'll show you what their next thing is. Because Darwinism has so many holes shot in it, they can't find that missing link. They've come up with a new one now. So this is man, and this is a spooky-looking alien guy below, almost like a man, but in the process, and you can see the chart behind DNA chart. So what the hypothesis is that these aliens have come down, splice, insert alien gene into the human DNA code. And it's the new missing link theory. So they couldn't find a missing link between chimpanzees and all that other stuff to today. So they said, this must be, it had to be alien intervention. And I say, it was alien intervention. It was called the Lord God Almighty. But we can also go to Genesis 6 and look at when the sons of God, B'nai Elohim, came down and they commingled with women, you get the Nephilim. Yes, they contaminate their DNA. And if you don't understand that, it's hard to accept why God had Joshua destroy the 7 tribes when he went into the land, because they had contaminated genes. Jesus said, as in the days of Noah, so shall it be again. And we are in those days. So you can see they spliced insert. There's one of the screens to show you how it's probably done. These people are very intelligent, and I respect their intellect, but I'm saddened by their foolishness to jump in anything other than God as a creator. They'll latch on to some of the craziest things and present it to you as though it's fact. There's no fact behind it, but you'll see some of these get on there, and it as though they have a museum full of artifacts. There are artifacts of elongated heads and giants and those things that were out through the land. So, but this is their thought for that. I just wanted you to be aware that they believe that DNA splicing and messing with the gene code is done by aliens. And I will say this, I teach on this, and it's from a scriptural basis, and it's based on things that the Lord has shown to me, and I can touch on fringes of that. But I do believe when you call out all the others and you get to the core that is, you cannot explain it. I do believe in UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. I do believe in those that are beneath the surface. And I do believe in aliens, all demonic. We know that Satan is able to transform into light. They have no mass. They can shape shift, and do different things. For me personally, I believe this is leading to the great deception. Is there has to be, when he was talking to me about this, he said, they call themselves the guardians, and not guardians, that one thing, but guardians that will come back and help us evolve even further. That's in Revelation, some of those things that just watch. And the chip, the mark of the beast, is not like what you think it is. But today, I want to clear those two things up on Darwinism and the new theory on alien intervention. The Lord has a sense of humor. I have told Kevin I didn't like sharing the things with him because first of all, he's my best friend, but I don't want to ever I never ask for him anything as a friend. If I go to him, I ask him as the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, our high priest. And as the high priest, he can identify with all of our needs. I never try to take advantage of, hey, you're my friend. I don't do that. And he knew that I'd be like that before he called me and helped me to become his friend. He knows everything. I did share with you, and people wrote, thank you for all the response on the story of the coat. I never even really thought about sharing it with others. I have many stories like that. This one is the Lord sometimes says, hey, I want to show you something. Okay. Or then other times he said, you need to see this. If you have been married to someone long enough, like my beautiful bride, we're a match. We're ideal. She knows what I like and think, and I know what she likes and thinks. After a while with Jesus, and you have opened your heart and asked for the Holy Spirit to give you a protection from any deception, he has a sense of humor. I don't know with the others, but he has a sense of humor. But he remembered and he knows how much I loved animals. You've sent me pictures of eagles and hummingbirds and so many other things, and I appreciate it. I see in nature the hand of your father and my father throughout. So he said, I want you to see something. Next thing in this, we're sitting down on a kind of like a ridge or something, but I could tell it was up in the mountains. And we're sitting there. I'm sitting and he's over here. And I'm like, I wonder what, I've learned just to wait and see. He always has something up. And then I see these two, whatever they are, rams, come out and they kicking at the dirt and snorting and doing all kind of stuff. And they like charged each other, jumped off their feet and collided. And like you could hear that thing for miles, I'm sure. They did that several times, and I can remember one particular when I was looking at it, the one on the right, when he was down, his eye looked right at me, and it was kind of like bloodshot, blackish looking, but you could tell the determination in him. And so you say, well, what was that about? He's enjoying his creation. And I think, all right, there's going to be something deep to this. And he said, aren't they amazing? I said, yeah. And he said, I made them that way. They won't hurt each other. Getting all the cushion, whatever the head was. And you think, well, that's the way he is. He loves his creation. And he has a sense of humor that I'll show you in creation. So we'll look at that. There was 3 on this one, but there was only 2. But more came out. I guess we had left by then, but more came out. I assumed this thing was going to continue until they had a king of the mountain. So he took me from there and on a trip just to look at different things of his creation. And my favorite is an octopus, the things it can do and how it can camouflage itself and change. He didn't show me that, but he showed me some others. And this is getting to a point. I don't know how well you can see that on the left is see, I got off my notes talking again. Let me bad Jim. Stay off your notes. So when you look at the Darwinism and UFO folks, Romans 1:20 through 25, for the invisible things of him from creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Talking about the people in this world. So even if you haven't heard the name Jesus, you can look around at creation and know, other than these biologists, that something created all of this. Because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God. That knew is compared to, it's the Greek 1097, polytheism. And compared to many gods, they know that there's one, but they didn't acknowledge him. They glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. So when I say these people sometimes are fools, I'm taking it out of the scripture. 22, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man. and to birds, and four-footed beasts, and creeping things. Romans 1, verse 24. Wherefore God gave them up to uncleanliness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, talking about male and female. It is scripturally opposing to God. There's so many families that have children and grandchildren that have gone away from their teachings when they were young or how they were raised, and they love them with all their heart. They don't like their lifestyle, but they love them with all their heart, and we join them in praying for them that the darkness and the foolishness, the blinding would be removed so they can be free, not only because it's against Scripture, but the lifestyle is not a good lifestyle. It's not a productive, healthy lifestyle. Verse 25, who changed the truth of God into a lie and worship and serve the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. And then for creation, look at Genesis 1:1. You and I both know that well. In the beginning, God. That's the Hebrews 4:30. Elohim. We talked about Elohim. I taught on that. In the beginning, God, or Elohim, created the heaven and the earth. That word create is the Hebrew 1:2, 5:4. It says, in the beginning, Elohim shaped, fashioned, always of divine activity, the heaven and the earth. So we get that from there. Genesis 1:24 and 25. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle, which it's representative of the flocks. It can be sheep, it can be cattle, be camels, donkeys, of his kind, cattle, and creeping things, and beasts of the earth after his kind. And it was so. Verse 25, and God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creeps and goes through. Catching up my notes. Colossians 1:15 through 19. This is when I have taught in the theophany, the appearance of Christ in the Old Testament, and say, well, God created. Yes, it was the Father through the Son, Jesus Christ. Colossians 1:15 through 19, who is the image of the invisible God, talking about Jesus, the firstborn of every creature, for by him, the Lord Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, were all things created that are in heaven and are on earth, visible and invisible, whether there be thrones, not talking about natural thrones, dominions, not natural dominions, these are angelic, principalities or powers, all things were created by him and for him, by Jesus and for Jesus. Verse 17, and he, Jesus, is before all things, and by him all things consist. That word consist is the Greek 49:21. It means to cohere or held together. So all things that you see and invisible, they're held together because he chooses to hold them together. But he is the head of the body, the Ekklesia. Talking about you, talking about Luke, talking about my bride, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he might have preeminence. For it pleased the Father that in him should all fullness dwell. There's things he's taught me over the years. I don't even think about them until I'm with you. It was the beginning, the firstborn from the dead. And I used to think, well, what do you mean, firstborn from the dead? Lazarus was raised from the dead, and so was Jarvis's daughter and the widow's son. He brought them all back to life. What you're talking about, the firstborn, is when you are born again in this coming time and you have a new body, your soul and your spirit is that transformed body. So even though they were raised from the dead, they died in a natural process. The Pharisees and Sadducees tried to kill Lazarus for quite a while. They didn't want him around giving testimonies. So I'm where I'm supposed to be, I think. His sense of humor. So once we had seen those rams or whatever those things were, he just started showing me different animals. These are not the animals. And we'd spend time at different places, and he'd just get a kick out of it. So the one on the left is called a Venezuela poodle moth. I say, discovered in Venezuela in 2009, this new species of alien-looking moth has poodle-like fur covering his head, thorax, abdomen, and even his wings. So it's a furry little guy on the left. On the right is the hummingbird hawk moth. As this hawk moth feeds on flowers and makes a similar humming sound, it looks a lot like a hummingbird. It is interesting that it is surprisingly good at learning colors. I guess to feed on. So yeah, would something come around my flowers like that, I think, yeah, it's a hummingbird, it's a moth. Just showing you the difference in his creation. And then compare that to what I read about Darwinism and its no purpose, and I'll show you even more where he taught me. So those were a couple. The Venezuela pooty moth. There's a little bitty baby moth-looking thing on your left. I don't know how it shows up. The Honduran white bat. That's poodle. All right, Venezuela. Let me see where he's at. The Honduran white bat has distinctive white fur with tips of individual hairs being gray, as well as leaf-shaped nose. That's him. They live in leaf tents that they build by cutting the side veins extending out from the midridge of the plant. So if you see them, they're real little, but that's a bat. It really. Here's the there's the panda ant, right? Despite looking like an ant and being referred to as such, it is in fact a form of wingless wasp. This insect is also known as a cow killer. Females possess thicker fur, and it goes on. So it's not an ant, that's a wasp without wings. So he takes pleasure in what he created. Sense of humor. Oh, yeah, got sense of humor. This guy on the left is a blobfish, a deep sea fish that inhabits deep waters off the coast of mainland Australia, Tasmania, and New Zealand. Is a gelatinous mass with a density slightly less than water, and this allows it to float above the seafloor without expending energy or swimming. Our Father created that for that reason. I don't know if them little flippers would get him around very far. But once he's out in oxygen hits him, it also makes all that stuff droop down. And the PACU, I guess, they have square, straight teeth, which is uncannily familiar to human teeth. Pacu, unlike piranha, mainly feed on plant material and not flesh or scales. So this guy has a set of choppers. They look like a human. I'm telling you, he has a sense of humor. I mean, you can't see it in nature. He showed me that night. I don't know how many different animals, and I understood why, later. The glass frog. Found in South America, the glass frog is a family of amphibians with some specimens exhibiting outstanding feature, transparent abdomens. So you can see right through this little guy's stomach. Because the internal viscera is visible through the skin, the common name they're given is a glass frog. Now, what about this guy on the right? I mean, his whole brains, you can see his brains. I can't pronounce that. You may see ROPINNA, microstoma, MICROSTOMA. Lives at a depth of about 2,000 feet, anywhere from 2,000 to 2,600. It's motionless water. It likes motionless water. It is unusual with a transparent fluid-filled dome on his head, through which the lenses of his eyes can be seen. And people say, that's our creator. That's not something that we evolved and blobmed down up. Okay. Sense of humor. He showed me so many that night of sense of humor, a joy in what he made, not making fun of them, but knowing that, yeah, right. Look at this. Mommy, he's just an old man. This thing with a long nose like that. Uh, Proboscis monkey, gargantuan. You can see that dude. I think that was on Planet of the Apes, something I watched with Luke one time. And the mandrill, you see that guy. He, when Kimberly was working, we were first married. She would have all these hours at retail. I'd go to the zoo by myself and just spend hours there. And I had a staring contest, one of these things for like 45 minutes. Who would who would look away? He was mad, but I looked away and I said, I have to go. But you wouldn't win. I have to go. So this antelope looking thing on there, it's to ask him. They had a duck one, and they had a duck he showed me. It had like a regular bill, and at the end of it looked like a paddle. And I said, "Why would you do that to the guy?" And he didn't have it. The Lord is a man. He's fully God, but he also is a man. We're going to come back to this OKAPI. Okay, on the right says, known as the forest giraffe. Okay. The Kepa looks more like a cross between a deer and a zebra. Nevertheless, it is the giraffe's only living relative. So, two things he did show me that I'm going to show you. You can say I'm very weak. I always was fascinated with these guys when I watch them. I didn't know much about them. I just, I'd always heard they couldn't fly. I remember, I think it was Brother Roy said, the bumblebee isn't supposed to be able to fly, but they never told him that. And so the bumblebee, I'm going to show you two of things of God's creation and what he wanted me to show you. Bumblebees have round bodies covered in soft hair, long branched setae called pile, P-I-L-E, making them appear and feel fuzzy. If it's on the subtle one. Read this one. There's all of my notes. Known for their large, hairy bodies clad in bands or stripes, bumblebees are some of the most important pollinators on Earth. This type of bee boasts fast-beating wings that help vibrate blossoms until they release large amounts of pollen, a method called buzz pollination, which helps the flowers to be more productive. Thanks to their unique pollinating skills, these tiny insects are integral to the survival of many different plant species. Short and stubby, the bumblebee doesn't look very flight-worthy. Indeed, in the 1930s, French entomologist Auguste Mangin even noted that the insect's flight is impossible, a notion that has stuck in popular consciousness since then. Michael Dixon, a professor of biology and insect flight expert at the University of Washington, explains the bumblebee's physics-defying aerodynamics. Quoting him, most of our knowledge of aerodynamics comes from designing airplanes, propellers, fans, and similar large objects. Using those equations and design methods, bumblebee wings can't be shown to be adequate for flight, even adjusting for scale with a square cube law, where weight proportional to volume and all those things. So there's another one that continue the quote, the fluid dynamics behind bumblebees' flight are different from those that allow a plane to fly. An airplane's wing forces air down, which in turn pushes the wing and the plane is attached to upward. For bugs, it isn't so simple. The wing sweep is a little bit like a partial spin of a somewhat crappy helicopter propeller, Dixon said, but the angle to the wing also increases vortexes in the air-like small hurricanes. The eyes of those mini hurricanes have lower pressure than the surrounding air, so keeping those eddies of air above the swings helps the bee stay aloft. I'm just sharing. The intricate design that Father made of these Just some facts on them. The one on the left in the picture is the world's largest bumblebee. The Bombus duoba looks furry, and they are so big they are sometimes likened to flying mice. It's big and furry. They do not produce honey. Honeybees collect honey to survive through the winter, but bumblebees do not prepare for the cold because they die in the fall. Bees need their complex eye system to navigate and pick up colors, shapes, and UV markings on flowers. For that reason, bumblebees have 5 eyes, including 2 main ones and 3 smaller ones on top of the heads. Bumblebees do not have arteries or veins. Instead, all their organs sit in a pool of blood inside their body. However, their heart does pulse blood through a long tube, which serves as a sort of circulatory system for the bumblebee. All you want to know about bumblebees and more. Bumblebees, there's some parallels I can draw with Luke. Some bumblebees have a fast metabolism. In fact, their metabolism is so fast that they're always about 40 minutes from starving, Luke, even on a full stomach. That's why they have to eat so much. And the parallel to that is on research is that they have to eat the equivalent of 180 candy bars in an hour. So these guys are pretty voracious. They also have imposters. In nature is something. It's like a cuckoo bird leaves its eggs in a foreign nest for another bird to raise. It's interesting to kick out all the others, and the mother thinks she just has a big chick. Species of cuckoo bumblebees sneak into other colonies to lay their eggs. Unlike cuckoo birds, they have to trick 1 or 2 birds. A cuckoo bumblebee must fool an entire colony. So bumblebees shiver to keep warm, to warm themselves. Faster the bees shiver, their large flight muscles getting their temperatures up to a minimum for flight at 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Thank you, Jim. I've learned everything I need to know about a bumblebee. I'm going to do research. I do pages over here. Just another one. A flying bumblebee flaps its wings 160 times per second and consumes the equivalent of 180 candy bars an hour. It uses the same oxygen for its body weight as a flying bird or a bat. However, unlike birds, the bumblebee uses no more oxygen when hovering than when flying. This is only one of the discoveries that contradict scientists' theories. I wanted to, down at the bottom, it says, according to Creation Moments, a website that makes an attempt to explain the director of the latest studies there on flight admits that they still have no idea how the bumblebee stays in the air. These are scientists that have studied it. There's others that say, boy, we have all types of proof for Darwinism. But when it comes to it, many of these, in actuality, we have no idea. Power insect muscles that generate a certain amount of power, while bumblebee wings are so small compared to their mass, they shouldn't be able to fly, as they do not have enough muscles to keep them moving. Same quote. Bumblebees are fuzzy because bumblebees, I'll finish with this on the bumblebees. Bumblebees buzz in the morning, as do honeybees, to warm up their engines, their muscles. Once up to temperature, they generate enough power, energy a second, to provide the lift needed, even with small wings. Everything you ever want to know about bumblebees. He took a few examples, talked to me about them, and then said, now go research. And I came back and I said, Lord, I got so much information on bumblebee. You'll see this next one. Only 2. So this is original short-necked ancestor, the giraffe. Keep stretching neck to reach leaves higher up on the tree, and stretching until neck becomes progressively longer, driven by inner need. So the way that the giraffe, he kept stretching and stretching to get to leaves higher up in trees, and that's why he got his neck longer. I'll show you the truth in a minute. Another theory, new research has been revealed that giraffes may have evolved their usually long necks and legs for heat regulation. Titled, How Giraffes Got Their Long Necks, the study reveals they may have evolved the trait to regulate their body temperature. Their narrow necks and legs enhance convective and evaporate heat loss. These features also reduce the solar radiation heat load when giraffes face the sun. Giraffes also supplement this effect by looking for shade when it's available. Well, so do I. That don't mean anything. Anybody's out in the sun. Would you rather be out in the Serengeti in the sun or find a tree to get under? So, according to the researchers, their shape confers head regulation benefits that have advantage for survival in the arid habitat they prefer. Still, researchers, here's the truth, are not certain why they evolved long necks, but it could have been a combination of conferring better access to reach higher food, most common widely accepted explanation, as well as heat regulation. So, according to these scientists, very intelligent, but wrong. So, Genesis 1:24-25, we talked about he created all the beasts, all the animals. I guess he showed me these two, or talked about these two because they're so familiar with people. A bumblebee, and here's the giraffe. See if I can butcher my notes on this one. God, wonder, and giraffes. Giraffes are the tallest mammals on Earth, about 19 feet tall. Their legs alone are taller than many humans, about 6 feet. So the legs about 6 feet tall. Giraffes weigh up to 2,900 pounds and eat more than 200 pounds a day. Number 3, they can run as fast as 35 miles an hour over a short distance or cruise at 10 miles per hour over a longer distance. Number 4, a giraffe's neck is too short to reach the ground. As a result, they awkwardly spread their front legs or knees to reach the ground for a drink of water and only need to drink once every few days. Most of their water comes from the plants they eat. So we'll talk about how they do their neck. Number 5, giraffes spend most of their lives standing up. They even sleep and give birth standing up. Number 6, the giraffe calf can stand up and walk after about an hour, and within a week it starts to sample vegetation. Number 7, despite the female's attempts to stand over their calves during attacks by lions, spotted hyenas, leopards, and African wild dogs, many calves are killed in their first few months. Verse 8. Number 8. The scripture spots are more like human fingerprints. No two individual giraffes have the same exact pattern. Now, so you learn something. That's their fingerprint. Giraffes have 2 distinct hair-covered horns called ossicones, ossicones. Well, that OPEC thing that I showed you, that was its ancestor, it had 2 on its head as well. Male giraffes use their horns to often fight with the other males. Number 10, giraffes only need 5 to 30 minutes of sleep a day. they take quick naps that last only a minute or 2 at a time. I'd like to have that. Number 11, while it was thought the giraffes did not make any sounds, it is now known to be untrue. A giraffe bellow, snort, hisses, and makes flute-like sounds, as well as low-pitched noises beyond the range of human beings. Okay. Give them my notes where I'm at. Only by design. Okay. This is the research I had to do, he didn't sit with. So this I found out through research. We talked about lions, leopards, spotted hyenas, excuse me. Sorry about that. Spotted Chinese African wild dogs. It's for heat regulation. Only by intricate design. This is what our Father did. Not scientists have no clue of what they're doing when it comes to some of these things. They try to explain it away. The giraffe has one of the highest blood pressures of any animal. It reaches pressures up to 280, 180, which is twice that found in humans, which is normally 120 over 80. This is due to the fact that the giraffe's head is on average 6.56 feet above its heart, and the heart has to combat the forces of gravity to ensure that the brain gets adequate blood flow and oxygen. The tallest of mammals, it takes quite a bit of pressure to get blood up to the brain. The giraffe aorta has about 220 millimeters of mercury pressure, and equals to about 4.3 pound per square inch of pressure. About 200 meters of mercury pressure when he is normally standing, which would be dangerously high in a human, but is necessary for the giraffe to get the blood up his long neck to his brain. To accomplish this, he has a heart that is about 2.5 feet long, weighing approximately 24 pounds. That's what that one is. The giraffe has two problems when he bends down to drink. That is when he is vulnerable to attack by predators. And secondly, the pressure would normally be enough to burst his blood vessels in his brain. Designed to be 18, 19 feet in the air as it is now at water level. So when it raises its head, it's when in the Marine Corps, I know that for divers, this is similar to embolism or the bends when you surface too rapidly. As we couldn't surface too rapidly, you had to ascend very slowly, unless you had the oxygen breather. So let's talk about, there's the heart. Tell you how his patterns are. The resolution of the problem is by design, a creator, not evolution. There are valves in the artery going up to his head that adjust when he is going down. Those valves close. The blood between the last valve and the brain has an organ specifically designed to reduce the pressure before the blood enters the brain. It is known as the RETE, R-E-T-E, M-I-R-A-B-I-L-E, or blood sponge. I just call it the blood sponge, which pulls the blood at the base of the skull and regulates the amount of blood released to the brain. So when he raises his head and goes down to drink water, obviously that's when he's most vulnerable, but also when he can have faint. The blood sponge functions as a reservoir. And without this special organ, when he raises his head from drinking, he would have no blood and have a dizzy spell and pass out. But this sponge-like organ feeds oxygenated blood to his brain as he comes up. The veins coming down from his head also have valves that are designed to equalize the pressure. So as his head goes from 18 feet to the ground for water, it is sealed off. As he rises, there is a reservoir underneath his brain and the sponge-like organ that has been designed in anticipation of his lifestyle. How he was designed because of any deficiencies in the, it says that the creator designed them. If there were any deficiencies in any of the blood sponge, the arteries, the valves closing, it'd be fatal. It had to be perfection, not evolved. When you say that the evolution of the species, if this giraffe went to raise his head and it passed out or killed him, there's no knowledge to be able to pass that along. So you couldn't have evolution to follow because they'd all be dead before they could pass on anything to them. They have their natural instincts that God's given to them. But this is just one example of creation that If it wasn't for intricate designs, this thing wouldn't be able to exist. And I'm talking about stretching his neck and all that other stuff. There are hundreds of examples in their skeletal, our circulation system that are essential for survival of the giraffe. One thing about evolution, dead animals do not evolve. So if he has a blood hemorrhage or dies, there is no way to pass on that experience. Nevertheless, Darwin blatantly attributes the intricate design to the giraffe's offspring. Okay. Romans 1, 21, 22, we talk about, because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God. Neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations and foolish in their heart. Today, I just, and there's some more, just to talk about the creation and how amazing and how awesome he is. And we have to bring that back to ourselves. And people that write in and say, I don't look this way, or I have these problems, and they hate themselves, or they just wish they were somebody else. And we know what bullying does at school and on the internet, and they make fun of somebody. And sadly, often that ends tragically. And if not, it's a hurt that they may carry on through the rest of their life. In showing me creation and taking me all over and showing me things, it always came back to the sheep. It always came back to his lambs. It always came back to him creating man in God's image, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And then we know that Eve was taken from his rib, and I taught on ribs. So the point is the intricacy and the details, not of evolution. They, like I said, they think now that alien technology intervened in our DNA, but it's another matter for another time. But it's about you, if you're watching and you don't like the way you look, or question why were you born to certain parents, not others, certain part of the world. God loves you. He is your father. And some of the ones that are amazing to me, that can play pianos or sing or do so many amazing things, are babies that families wanted to give up on. They weren't born perfect. And yet the Lord didn't love them any less. Each one of us, that was the leaving the 99 for the one. So looks, it's like with Kimberly, I married her because we were friends, best friends. I could talk to her and we read together, and she was beautiful, and she's beautiful today. But that wasn't the reason. The reason was, is because we were friends. And as you grow older, she's maintained her looks. She works out, does her sit-ups and stuff every day. But accept who you are and believe that God created you are fearfully and wonderfully made. He knew who you were in the womb. As he told Jeremiah, I called you in the womb to be a prophet. So let me go to a few other things to show you the fingerprint of God in nature. I've taught you that he has taught me there are 3 languages of heaven, not human or angelic, 3 languages of heaven. And heaven is even here. Light waves, length on the spectrum. I told you that he showed me a prism, then the rainbow, and aura around people, and so many different things. It says, Ezekiel 28:13. This is one that you'll know who this is. Thou hast been in Eden of the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, topaz, the diamond, the beryl, onyx, the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, carbuncle, the gold. The workmanship, in other words, that word workmanship is the Hebrew 43:99. Is the workmanship is the service of work that you're to do, that you were created to do a particular work. On the tabrets, which are, that word in Hebrew is for tambourines, 8596, service of work, your tambourines and thy pipes, the sockets. A socket is like what you put a diamond in, that type of socket. Or in Moses Tabernacle, they had sockets of silver where those gold-covered acacia fit into those. They were silver. Outside was a brass. This was prepared in you in that day that you were created. So he's talking about Lucifer. All those stones of him. Exodus 28:15 through 19. Also, the high priest had 4 rows of 3 stones. And if you look at Revelation 21:19 through 20, the foundation of the wall of the New Jerusalem is those stones. The reflecting of the different colors of stones, the light that they put out. Same way with the high priest on his breastplate, that particular colors would illuminate, and the Urim and Thummim was a yes or no type of answer from God, and it manifests itself differently when the high priest used it. But to show you that color is throughout heaven and throughout his creation. We know the rainbow and just the color. Look at the flowers and things. I'll show you in creation, but sound, light, right? Frequencies of light. Why am I? And sound waves. So you have the spectrum of the waves of light, and then below you have sound waves for frequency. Blowing of the trumpet, blowing of the shofar. I taught on the voices of heaven were like thunder, and they voiced. So think of all the sounds, music, sound of worship. David worshipped on kind of like a harp thing. Is sound. If you go to a good Christian concert, and they're used to praise the Lord, you feel that. Those that have gone to other type of concerts that feature satanic things, so the whole atmosphere is charged with, you could feel it. Those two. The third one I'm going to touch on today, numbers. When I said numbers or math, arithmetic, it's hard to describe it with the Lord, but I'll show you what that is. I talked to you about gematria, right? Gematria. The Hebrew has, and I have said this before, it has a numeric value to it. It has, where's my, excuse me. It has a picture to it. If you look at Alpha is the ox, Bet is the house, Gamel is the camel. And they have different meanings for that. Ox being the head, being the leader, house, when they put those together, the leader of the house. But they have different pictographs, numeric value, and then actually, a different meaning in Hebrew or Greek. But that's from the Hebrew Chaldee letters. I just wanted to show it to you. I mention it sometimes, and it's really hard to understand. But when I talk about math, this is what I want to think of that language. Many of you know I have an MBA in finance, but this is beyond anything I could. Einstein. So I'm going to show you something in nature and try to finish out. Fibonacci. He told me one night Fibonacci, and I wrote it in my book. I didn't spell it right, but I knew the name, and I Googled enough to finally find Fibonacci. Fibonacci, I received an excellent education in the methods of the 9 Indian numbers. The knowledge of these numbers pleased me more than anything else. People don't talk like that anymore. Therefore, strictly embracing the Indian method and adding some of my own ideas and still more from elusive geometry, I assembled them in a book as understandable as I could, The Famous People. So the Fibonacci numbers appear unexpectedly often in mathematics, so much so that there's an entire journal dedicated to their study, the Fibonacci Quarterly. Applications of Fibonacci numbers include computer algorithms, such as Fibonacci search technique and the Fibonacci heap data structure and graphs called Fibonacci cubes used for interconnecting parallel and distributed systems. They also appear in biological settings, such as branching in trees, the arrangement of leaves on a stem, the fruit sprouts of a pineapple, the flowing of an artichoke, an uncurling fern, and the arrangement of a pine cone's bracts. Fibonacci numbers are also strongly referred to in the golden ratio. Bennett's formula expressed the nth Fibonacci number in terms of n, and the golden ratio implies that the ratio of two consecutive Fibonacci numbers tends the golden ratio as n increases. So you take 1 plus 2 is 3, and you take the 3 plus 2 is 5, and you just add the number in the previous one to it, and you'll have a Fibonacci sequence. But I'll show you some. He's known as the Italian mathematician from the Republic of Pisa, P-I-S-A. You can see from 1240 to around that time is when he published that. Famous for his contribution to number theory, introduced the bar that's used for fractions today. Previous to this, the numerator had quotations around it. The square root notation is also a Fibonacci method. It's been said that Fibonacci numbers are nature's numbering system, and they apply to the growth of living things, including cells, petals on a flower, wheat, honeycomb, pine cones, and much more. That's a page that I have found in his notes of Fibonacci, Liber Baca, A-B-A-C-I. What does it got to do with anything? When he comes to me and he shows me things, it's not like anything I've ever heard or seen most of the time. So it's something new. And I had said that knowledge will increase, not changing the scriptures, but showing as he shows deeper and deeper into the hidden mysteries to show them to you as it honors and glorifies him. That's not only for me, that's for you. I said, oh, you, no, that is not only for me, that is for you. The friendship is for you. You just have to believe and ask the Holy Spirit to protect you from any deception. And just, I ask him simple things when I start off, and I've covered that before. So let's look at Fibonacci. Also, the book of calculus is attributed to him. Fractions, square roots. The Fibonacci sequence. I'm not going to cover all these, so I'll just read from the slides from this point on and see how long I can go. I already feel. Fibonacci sequence. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. See how you see the 3 and the 2 is 5, 5 and 8 is 13, 13, 21 is 34. So that's the Fibonacci sequence. Ration of any adjacent numbers. So those that specialize in this, you would understand it. And I'm just a student trying to plod along. It appears in nature. Also, the Greeks discovered the golden rectangle. The longer side is the shorter side, as the sum of two sides is to the longer side. If that makes sense to you, it's great. I did remember in all my studies 1.618, and I'll tell you why that stuck in my mind. 1.168. The Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci sequence, designed based on the sequence, the Parthenon in Greece, the Great Pyramid in Giza, and others that surround the world, the United Nations building, credit cards, playing cards, postcards, writing pads, 3x5, 5x8 cards. These are all according to the Fibonacci design. It's easier to stack, it's easier to contain, and they last longer and produce more. But I'll show that to you. Appears in nature. Artists use the golden ratio, TGR. What is the golden ratio? The existence of the golden ratio is an eternal universal force in one sense, as it could be said that all mathematical formulas and equations are embedded in the known universe. Equations embedded in the known universe. As far as it's arithmetic or math or whatever he was showing to us, all those figures, like you saw on Einstein's board. Popular by Elucid himself, responsible for elucidating geometry around 365 BC. However, the term the golden ratio was coined by Martin Ohm, OHM, in the 1800s, and from there was then designated the name pi. You heard of pi? In the 1900s by American mathematician Mark Barr. So you know where we get the number pi. I'll show it to you. I dug in his notes and found this is one of his originals and just put it up there for you to see. Fibonacci notes, and you can, I don't know if you can see A equals B, B equals C, C equals D, but it comes to that 1.618 golden ratio. Okay, 1.618. How the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio related? You can see the golden rectangle and the golden triangle. The golden rectangle has a property. It can be further subdivided into two parts, a square and a golden rectangle. Now keep dividing the golden rectangle like this, and you will find some interesting facts related to the Fibonacci series. I can touch the surface of it, but those you need, these people that love this type of math can get up and spend all the time. What they did say, this is all throughout nature, all throughout creation. And Fibonacci, his father was a minister, and he was going to be a lawyer, and an accident changed that, and he ended up becoming one of the greatest minds in this, Isaac Newton and others, the mathematician. Employed in classical art. So you can see the Fibonacci sequence in Leonardo da Vinci, Van Gogh, Vermeer, Monet, Whistler, Renoir. You can see down the list. Dynamic symmetry in contrast to static symmetry, growth, power, and the movement therein, giving animation and life to an artistic work. So when you use this particular formula, it says that it gives life to a picture, and you using that, you can see the Last Supper with the Fibonacci square in that, and it's used by artists, those that we just covered. Say, well, that's nice, Jim. What about, where's God in this? Mona Lisa, same thing. The human body. I could get in a lot of detail, just want you to see that. Art and works, the different sequence of the Fibonacci. Helpful with objects moving from foreground to the background. Helps for leveling, positioning focal points. You can see they use that in science. Partly on the remains of it, the Fibonacci. You see, you can just stick that on any building and say that's what it is. I'll show you more. There's that 1.68. There's the human body, the hand and the fingers. They can determine the height of a person now based on the Fibonacci. Well, they have been able to with the Fibonacci. If you understand from the waist down to the kneecap and other different dimensions, you can see how it divides out the hand, the face. They say the most beautiful people in the world have this Fibonacci code. I think it was called the museum. Some guy, the librarian, and this girl supposedly had that Fibonacci face. She was beautiful. Human body flexing shows intelligence, and that the human body has been designed with a golden ratio as a base. Not a mere coincidence, simply shows beauty and purpose in design as we observe patterns around us in the solar system and in mankind, and in the human DNA. See that? We're at that 1.618. In nature, you can see the Fibonacci even in waves. There are people that spend a lifetime doing these things. And I have that, and I didn't understand all the pictures, but it was from reliable sources, so okay, backed up by Wikipedia and some others on Monet and Whistler and some of the others in artwork. The floral arrangement, you see the Fibonacci sequence is a lily, yellow violet. I don't know what that thing is. Mayweed, aster. The Fibonacci sequence is all throughout nature. The petals, right? Floral arrangements. I'm getting back to the hummingbird, bumblebee, and God's creation. So you can see the Fibonacci sequence. I'll show it to you. Petals on flowers are one of the easiest ways to observe the Fibonacci sequence. Why? Not by random chance, but because the stamens of a flower can't be packed most efficiently when they, let me start again, because the stamens of a flower can be packed most efficiently when they are a Fibonacci number. The flower wastes less resources managing its petals and can grow more effectively. So even in flowers, you can see this design. 3, 5, 3 pedestals. There's the 5th one. 8. Different numbers in flowers. So all throughout, you can look further into it. The Fibonacci, but it shows the whole point is he didn't design those things. He was revealed, that was revealed to him by God to Fibonacci, to understand nature. And then from that, calculus and all the others, but he attributed the creation of God to these things. You can see that Phyllotaxis, spiral arrangement of leaves around a plant stem. There's the elm, the beech, the hazel, 1 to 3, apricot, oak, 2 to 5, pear, poplar, 3 to 8, right? Almond, 5 to 17, pines, 5 to 21. See the sequence? 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. In the arrangement of the leaves around a plant stem. Leaves and flowers are arranged in regular patterns around the stem of a plant, a phenomenon known as Phyllotaxis. Different arrangements occur, such as dicoccus. No, I'm not going to butcher all that for you. Distichous. The next is Decussate, or the spiral. Most prevalent in nature are spirals in which the average divergence angles, successive organs are close to 137.5 degree, the golden angle. And it just, you can look at the golden angle, but I can read all that, but when I see it in a picture, I got it. See the spiral of it? In flowers, in nature, there's the pine cone, there's a cactus. So when we talk about evolution, it's sad. These people are so intelligent, but they'll find any way possible to come up with a theory outside of our Father in the Lord Jesus Christ speaking, and it was. So flowers, seeds, rows of racks of pine cones. There's the 8 and 13. Pineapples, 8, 13, 21. There's that optimum divergence angle. So they're at an angle, so the packing and productivity of how they grow produces the best packing. The reason we see the Fibonacci spiral in the seed heads, like in sunflowers. Okay. The spiral of seeds in pine cones, the fruitlets of a pineapple, what do they have in common? They both conform to the Fibonacci sequence. As anyone who has read Dan Brown's thriller, The Da Vinci Code, or seen the movie knows, the Fibonacci sequence is a sequence of numbers created by adding two sequential integers together, starting at zero. Those that I put the formulas up there for you, those that like related to phi and the maintenance of beauty. And there's a sequence that it can be described by equation. You can see the 0 and then 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 35, and it goes on and on and on. The last one I stopped at was 987. So there is a specific design in nature. I told you about the bumblebee, and we took out the giraffe, and I could have done many in creation like that. And then he showed me mathematical formulas that make up not only the heaven, but everything he created is specifically done with a purpose. There's the pine cone and the pineapple. So it shows up all in creation. Music, I can make a joyful sound, that's it. Pentatonic scale, diatonic scale, chromatic scale. Those that have played the piano would relate to this. I have no clue other than studying it, and it's in art, it's in nature, it's in music, sound. Remember sound, I told you? So there's the sound, you think of a piano and other things as a language. Revolution of the planets. Look at the planets on the left, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, Saturn. And look far right on the ratio. 1 to 2, right? 3, 5, 8, 13. Don't understand what the 720 is. 21, 21, 34. So the revolution of the planets do the same thing. Who made the planets? There wasn't no Big Bang is our father. I'm trying to show you what all he showed me over the course of time of things he created. Pascal triangle, Fibonacci, Pascal, to do with artwork, put it on their backdrop, and then create their art around it. Why if I do all these planetary rotations, rotate, add to Fibonacci numbers. So the different rotations. The Milky Way galaxy, you can see that with Fibonacci in nature. Milky Way, golden spiral, right? We'll get to that. You remember that one point, 6, 8, whatever it was. I found that interesting as Luke and I watch this skinwalker thing. So I'll show you what I sent to Brandon and his team at a Skinwalker Ranch. This was the Mesa Ridge. By the way, they are looking for proof of some type of alien ship, but they also encounter wormholes, UAPs. According to Luke, it's one of the very popular shows. So this is the Mesa Ridge where there's so much activity that goes on. I believe in wormholes because I believe in God and his revelation to Einstein and the Bridge-Rosen theory. Einstein-Rosen bridge theory, sorry. This is at the triangle where all of it happens. So I sent that to him and the team so he could see. I sent about 60 different slides on things. And for those that don't, that's just one of the shows on television that they're slowly, after several years, with some exceptional talent on his team, are looking and trying to understand the native people that were here, some of skinwalkers that, different things that they look at. Homestead 2. Confirms some of the things when they look at wormholes or when they see a UAP go into the mountain and through the mountain, come out the other end. It's a different dimension. And you can see with autumn, summer, spring, the different rotations, as I have told you, of the planets, but you can see there is a Fibonacci, the golden circle, which we'll come to. Okay. Diameter of Saturn is very close to a golden ratio relative to the diameter of its rings. This can be linked to the Fibonacci numbers. Our Father created all things. And in time, if you look, you'll see it and it will be revealed to us. That's why I love you so much, is you're Bereans and you want knowledge and you want our firm foundation to be solid in these days. But there's a lot of different things he wants or has shown to me. The golden spiral, I found some of these just amazing. A spiral that does not alter its shape as it grows. Okay, only spiral that doesn't alter its shape as it grows. I'll show you the conches of the human ear, the DNA molecule, galaxies, growing fern leaves, hurricanes, sea horsetail, seed patterns of sunflowers, daisies, dandelion, spiral seeds, tail of a comet around the sun, the chambered nautilus, ears of all mammals, the ram's horn, tornadoes, waves breaking on the beach, I had shown that to you, and whirlpools, the golden spiral. I don't know how the picture shows up. I had to do these instead of the color it's in because it didn't show up well, but you can see inside the ear is that golden spiral called the COCHLEA. That is the diagrams on the left for the Fibonacci sequence. And then that's the human ear. Every human ear with that. And so it's, our Father put it everywhere. Staircase. Here's the golden spiral. There it is again on a sunflower. Talk about how a sunflower is, right? From 1 to, you can see the top 34 going out. He's amazing. I think Mason's talking about the great architect in the sky. He's the only architect. All things were created by him and for him. There's the nautilus shell. If you see different seashells, you see the design of them. I mean, it's beautiful. That's it on the sand. And then just an internally like a spiral suitcase, a staircase. Sequence in the Fibonacci and the golden spiral. Seashell. I guess today is brag on Daddy Day. Honestly, is there was a Christmas. Tim Allen and his son took him to class, and they were all talking about what their dad did, and it came to him, and the little boy said, "My dad's Santa Claus," and oh boy, and then got sent to the principal's office over that one. But I was thinking, if you were, in front of a classroom and you tell them what your dad did, my dad's gone. Being the principal's office pretty quick. Planets in our solar system is not to scale, obviously, but you can see, if you're interested in that, I mean, the different aspects of it with the rotation of the planets. It's like in the Bible, every dot, every comma, every dot and tittle, he put there. He is intricate in everything he does, perfection. Here's what I tell you about the Einstein-Rosen bridge theory with Dr. Einstein, the galactic travel, or as I believe, interdimensional. But you can see the design of it, even in the stars, right? So Fibonacci shows up in Einstein's theory, Rosen's theory. So many beautiful things. Wormholes, gateways, portals, absolutely. He called John up to heaven. We'll get back to Revelation. Come up hither through a door, through a gateway, and he showed him everything. Here's a golden spiral wormhole cut through space that you can go to other galaxies. But also there are different dimensions I've talked about. Just a few more to show you that nature, creation, astronomy. I love the stars and study. I do a teaching on the stars of heaven and their names. That was one thing I wanted to show you today, and thankfully, before I go back to bed, just at least say hello to you, tell you that I've missed you, and I always look forward to it. I just don't have a way of, putting it out there, letting you know that wasn't gonna make it. I tried yesterday, but it just wasn't gonna work. So we'll get to. I'm not for sure how we'll close out December, but we've talked about, and we will, the four horsemen. Mainly, I want to differentiate the white horse from what many very good scholars believe, but we'll get to Revelation 6, verse 1. End times, transhumanism, AI. Said this for years, and people are like, I don't know. It says, here's one from my Bereans. I give you little hints occasionally. Bereans 2, Daniel 2, 42 and 43. As the toes of the feet were part of iron, part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. Verse 43. And whereas you saw the iron mixed with clay, the word they, others try to interpret that intermarriage. That's not what it means. It's not intermarriage and the marriage didn't work out. Whereas you saw iron mixed with clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. Not talking about marriage, just talking about the origin, the seed of men. Go back to Genesis. But they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Emerging theories on robots, transhumanism, AI. Well, Jim, that can't be. Read Revelation. And he made the beast, and he came alive, and the beast could speak and force people to take the mark. So when he showed me Fibonacci, he also told me in the pyramid in Giza, and within that you can put the Fibonacci code, and it fits directly to that. It's not today's teaching. But when he showed me the Fibonacci code and the pyramid, he gave me a name. This is going back maybe a year, Tesla. And so I had to look up Tesla, and since then I've studied a lot, and Luke took immediate interest in Tesla. But when I have told people, the Lord showed me what the prophet Kim Clement used to talk about is the Big E. I know what the Big E is now. And Tesla was done in with the Illuminati, J.P. Morgan, because he wanted to give free electricity, free energy to the world. And for those type of people, free is not no vocabulary. Isaiah 19, but it's in the scriptures also. So does Egypt and Palestine. Isaiah 19, 19 through 20. In that day, there should be an altar altar sacrifice to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt in that day. I've told you what that in that day refers to. All the prophets said the Lord's day or in that day, the day, means end times day when the Lord comes, not for rapture, but as a roaring lion in judgment, which he will do. And go back to Daniel chapter 9, 24, 25, 26, and 27. And the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar, sacred stone associated with an altar, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord. And it should be for a sign and memorial, and for a witness towards the Lord, unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt, where they shall cry unto the Lord because of the oppressors, and he shall send them a Savior, and a great one, and he shall deliver them. We'll say that happened with Egypt. He think, as I said, we think of Greek mind thinks prophecy comes to pass, or it doesn't come to pass. The Jewish mindset with the rabbis is different. They see patterns. And so this pattern is, you can see it's the same patterns what happened before when he relieved them, but in that day. And he talks about in Egypt, there will be a pyramid at the border. I'll share that another time, where Giza is at. And it used to be the border between north and south, so it was on the border. But this one's not a good picture. And this is what most people, there's many that have written and said, Jim, the rapture's coming in 2023. Well, we don't have much time. And there's many that believe this is what will happen in the near future, that over many of the cities, they'll see something like this, that the government has kept to themselves. So thank you for your time. I'm sorry that I missed you yesterday. Well, see how. Thank you for your prayers. Nurse Kimberly, she's already given me the hook. So until I see you the next time, the Lord keep you in peace, safety, and bless you in every way possible. Again, thank you and God bless.